Hi YouTube, John Michael here. Today I have a short video about the distinction between being responsible to others and being responsible for others. And I'm talking primarily about the way we become responsible or take on responsibility, too much responsibility for the emotions of other people. So when I say responsible to others, this is connected to also learning to be more self-responsible and responsible for ourselves. And when I say that, I mean learning to be more in touch with our needs and sharing our needs with others. So when we're responsible to others, we are showing up in the relationship as well as we can, as honestly as we can, as empowered as we can. And we show up empowered in relationships by expressing our boundaries and our needs, by respecting our time and our energy, and not overriding ourselves for the sake of the other person in some way. Sure, there are times when we need to put our self on the back burner a little bit to give them space, to hold space for somebody else if they're going through something difficult. But if that becomes a situation where that person is just drawing from the friendship bank or the relationship bank, whatever it might be, over and over and over without also depositing, it can become this situation where our needs are being put aside, and there's a sense of becoming more responsible for the other person because we're not able to get our needs met, and we're not being responsible to our own needs in those situations as well. So on this one side, we have responsibility to showing up, responsibility to ourselves, our needs, and trying to meet the needs of others where we can, where it is possible. On the opposite end of the spectrum is when we get into this sense of being responsible for others. And this can be a fine line. We can be firmly in the responsible to for big chunks of time in a relationship, and then sometimes something happens and then we start becoming responsible for. So being responsible for is this idea of we feel we're personally responsible for the emotions of others. And that is, it's like, I cannot do this thing because it will make the other person sad, even though this might be something that's really important to me, or this is a need that I have. When we start feeling responsible for the experience of other people, the emotions of other people, there are boundaries that we need to set that we are struggling to set for some reason. Maybe we are afraid of the loss of that relationship, or in the past that person has been, when they didn't get their way or get what they needed from us, they would lash out at us and hurt us in some way. So maybe we're feeling uncomfortable with the conflict that would arise if we actually stood our ground and said what we needed and expressed our boundaries firmly to this person. What this does when we start feeling responsible for other people, the emotion that I see most often in my counseling practice is this buildup of resentment. People start feeling resentful of the other person because in some way they're giving away their power. They are taking on more responsibility than they should, because we are all ultimately responsible for our own emotions. And when I talk about this too, I'm speaking primarily for an adult-to-adult relationship. When it's adult and a child relationship, there is aspects of this for sure. We aren't in control of how a child feels, but the smaller the child is, we are co-regulating for that child. Our emotions and the way mirror neurons work, the child is feeling what we feel in a lot of ways. So this changes a bit in that sense, and that dynamic, but I'm talking about adult relationships. And so in a future video, we'll go over how do we break these patterns? How do we get out of these old patterns of being responsible for others and move towards being responsible to others? But for now, I think I want to encourage people who might find themselves on the responsible for end of things to consider what I've said and consider ways that their actions could bring things back into alignment or more into alignment, and so that you can be responsible to others, responsible to the relationship, but not necessarily feeling responsible for the emotions of the other person. Until next time, take care.